Welcome. I hope you're well. Heather's here. She's in New Zealand. No, she's in Australia. She's been in New Zealand. And I'm live streaming, so hopefully it's spotlit on me, so it shouldn't be everybody else. And maybe one or two people might also pop in as we get going. We'll see what happens. So today I was thinking of working with two things, and it's really simple and basic. And that is, first of all, just inhaling, filling up, and exhaling, letting go, and coming into whatever that means to us anew each time that we're inhaling and exhaling. So it's not that you have to have a whole story going on. It could just be, I'm inhaling, and then I'm exhaling, I'm letting go. It could be filling up, letting go. I just feel like that's such an important thing, especially as we shove ourselves to the end of the year and our lives are all packed full of stuff like, maybe we need to let go more than usual right now. I know I do. And then the other thing I wanted to do is some humming for nitric oxide. And that we'll just land for a few minutes and then we'll get into that in a minute. So just to let you know, you can do anything vertically, horizontally, in a chair, on the floor, in your bed, in any way that feels comfortable to you. And also, if you're in my actual room and you have a question, feel free to unmute and just ask, because if you have a question, it's fine. Probably somebody else does. And since it's spotlit on me, it shouldn't pop you into the video. Okay, but let's come in for a landing. I'm going to sit my butt onto my ball and just coming down and letting myself feel what it is to be here right now in my body, and inviting you to do the same thing. So just a few breaths of finding ourselves where we are right now, ideally with no need to really change it, just to notice what's actually going on. And this can be with eyes open or eyes closed. And if any movement wants to come up and get involved, it's always welcome. And stillness is fine also. Just feeling into maybe the tempo and tone of yourself right now. Feeling how weighted you are or how spacious you are. These are just the things that are coming into my awareness right now. Maybe something totally different is coming into yours. And as we start to tune in, start to notice the inhale and the exhale. And if you want to give yourself the inner dialogue, you can say filling up and then letting go. And if you feel like filling up is too much because you're already really full, just say inhale and then let go. And I just want to say that right now I can hear my cats charging around in the house. And so what that kind of fills me up with is a sense of joy, and it seems very funny. They are super amusing to me. So I'm filling up with that. And letting myself come into the moment, letting myself come in for a landing. So I'm just thinking about this idea of breathing on a cellular level, like all of our cells are breathing. And if we still have this idea of taking in, filling up, and letting go with the cellular breathing, that the dialogue might be more like nourishing and then detoxing, right? We're taking in what we need and we're letting go of what we don't need. So that's happening on this cellular level as well as this more gross respiratory level. So imagining that cellular respiration going along in congruence with our respiration, with our big lung work. And also, I'm just going to invite this movement if it feels good to you. And this is just what I'm doing with myself, is sort of growing and shrinking with my hands in relationship to the inhale and exhale. And we could even imagine that we're just like a small point in space, and on the inhale, we get bigger, and on the exhale, we get smaller. So there's this natural sense of growing and shrinking with the breath. And maybe it feels you can touch into that, and maybe not, and that's fine. However it is. Yeah, and for me, as I feel the growing, like I feel like I sort of grow into a sense of wonder. And then I shrink into a space of sort of just letting go and settling. It may be very different for you. And this growing and shrinking could take place very three-dimensionally, in the front back space, in the side side, in the up down. So letting, if any movement is happening, or if you're inviting the arms into the play, letting it be as three-dimensional as it feels good. And it doesn't even have to totally go with your breath. Like, you can have more freedom to let the growing and shrinking. You could grow and continue growing for a big inhale and exhale, and inhale and exhale cycle, and then let it come back into itself again with inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So it's not locked in. We don't need to take more tension in just because we have these ideas. And you could think of the growing and shrinking just kind of being like waves, like happening, and allowing them to happen, allowing it to come in if it feels interesting, if it feels curious, or even like wind. Or even like two kittens running around the house terrorizing. They're almost always out of frame, but one is right in front of me. So there's that. There's that happening, that ripple in the experience. So as we're in there, inviting in any kind of micro movement to bubble up. Or maybe it's even micro movement like settling down. I had the image of snow, like snow landing on the ground, and how quiet and how spacious it can be when it's snowing outside, when the world is blanketed with that snow. So all the sort of nature images work really well for me, just coming into that sense of wateriness or snowiness or the wind blowing, just bringing on and inviting in any kind of nature imagery, nature sensation into your experience. There's no right or wrong. Just moving with some micro movement or some macro movement or some stillness, and finding yourself within that. So we could think with this filling up and with this letting go, again, that we're nourishing ourselves and we're just letting go of whatever we don't need. Nourishing and letting go. So from there, we've been moving for a few minutes, or we've been in this for a few minutes. Let's start to bring in this hum idea. So the hum, it's going to stimulate the production of nitric oxide, which is going to be moving around in the turbines of your nose. So after you make the humming sound, try and breathe back in through your nose. And the nitric oxide is it's an antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal. And we can do it as much or as little as it feels good. So if it feels like it's too much, then let it go. If you need resting breaths, just take resting breaths. And it's also not that we want to hum like until eternity and have the longest exhale in the world. It will downregulate us, but we don't want to go into stress with that. So working with what feels exactly right to you. And each breath could be very different. And I'll just start And it may cut out because the headphones are going to think that this is noise that might not be what I want to record. So it may come in and out for you sound-wise. And we're not trying to be like the greatest singers on earth. We're just making sound and allowing that vibration to vibrate our fluids. And I'll get going and then I'll talk a little bit more about what my experience is. I'm going to add this extra layer of thinking of or experience. What I like to do and what feels really good to me is, as my tongue is in my mouth, to let it move just a little. And in my head, it creates some different overtones so I can hear into that sound and really tune into that sensation. And I want to add one more thought, and that is with the humming. The exhale for me isn't like just a letting go. It's also like a creative force. So the vibration in my body that's taking on this hum and is much more creative than just releasing. So your experience may be different. Whatever it is fine. Allowing the sound to arrive and arise in any way that feels good, in any way that feels delicious. And I just want to throw this image out there. You've seen those, or I've seen, when they have like a speaker or a table and they have salt on it and they vibrate the salt with sound, and you see how it starts to create different geometric shapes and forms. So just imagining that in your own body, there's this geometric coherence happening as you make that vibrational sound. That it doesn't even have to be that we understand it. It can just be happening in your imagination, but we're bringing that vibration in so that this coherence is invited. I'm just sharing part of my experience that is noticing cats running back and forth, is noticing the amount of tension required to maintain that humming sound and just what that feels like. So it's interesting to like notice, like when I stop the hum, like, what lets go? And when I start the hum, what's required to create this sound, this field of sound? So just feeling into the sensations of that. You can allow movement in your body if it feels good or if it feels interesting. So the sound and the vibration is going to hydrate your tissue all the way to the density of your bones, but movement also. And if we shift our relationship to gravity, even if I'm just turning my hands over, it's shifting the relationship to gravity. And so the fluids in my body are changing their relationship. with the earth. The slower I go, the more time my body has to catch up with what's going on. But sometimes fast feels good. So listen into your own tempo and allow whatever movement feels good. And so I'm going to let us play for maybe 5-10 minutes with these different things. So we can play with the idea of taking in, letting go in whatever way that feels good to us. We can play with the sound, the humming vibration. Yeah, and feel free to like let it really out. Sometimes a shake or blah, 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 whatever your body needs. Listen in, allow it. And then the other thing, so taking in, letting go, or just inhale, exhale, growing, shrinking, right? So I feel like, or dancing to the sound of your own hum, or the sound of the hum of the room that you're in. So you're taking in whatever you're perceiving and just allowing it to be part of the dance, part of the expression, which might be cats running all over or making a lot of noise. It's like they're just sprinkling in the humor to my experience. Which can also be perceived as lightness in my body. And also unexpectedness. Oh, here's a little surprise. Didn't see that coming, right? So letting yourself explore the inner realm or the experience of this moment with whatever's arising. Inviting in the imaginal and the sensational. I'm going to come off of my ball and get totally into the ground. You'll also notice if you change your relationship to the ground and if you actually have the floor underneath you, just feeling the vibration of sound is going to be really different. If you take your hands on your body while you're vibrating that sound, you should also probably feel it. And you could imagine that you're inviting your body to undo or to allow some freedom in all of the sort of cultural repression that has come up, like whatever you weren't supposed to do, whenever you're supposed to sit still, allowing yourself to have some movement in whatever way feels good. It could be very, pushy pulley with resistance and stuff like that, or it could be very light and floaty. It could be happening in any different way. And you're just going to allow it to happen. If it becomes uncomfortable, you can always come back to stillness, or you could get up and have a glass of water or walk around, just see the space around you to come into that sense of safety. But if you feel like it's okay, let yourself keep sort of diving deeper into the experience of whatever is happening, whatever you're allowing to come online. And sometimes with the movement, it might feel like, oh, I'm making this thing happen. And if you feel like you're getting into a pattern that keeps repeating, try changing it completely. Like as soon as you notice you're in a pattern, if you go to a different place, you'll be like, oh, or maybe you won't. That's what happens to me a lot. I'm like, oh, there's something here. Maybe I can let go of that. You may also find yourself in a pattern that feels really good that you need to see to the end. So that's fine too. Yeah, and you can play with this growing and shrinking with the breath again, breathing on the cellular level, breathing on the experiential level. So it's your whole body breathing. So I'm going to add music and just give us a little bit of more external impetus. And this will be Jeff Gersh, who has this ambient fields music. Let's try this. So allowing the music to also feed the field for you. So sometimes I feel like the music is the map, but imagine that your head isn't reading this map, your body's interpreting the map. And maybe you wander into some completely different territory that has nothing to do with anything we've talked about. That's totally fine too. If you feel like you have any kind of idea of who you are supposed to be or who you should be or who people want you to be, let that go. Just like invite that to melt away so that you can experience the moment without this extra baggage. It's like you're taking off the backpack of expectation and judgment and just letting yourself have more freedom. I don't know if it's as weird for you. My sound is coming in and out a whole bunch. That can be part of the experience. All the weirdness is part of it too. I'm just going to fade out the music, but we're going to keep moving just so that you have your own experience without the influence of the music now, just allowing you to go in with that, letting any ripples of it stay in there and continue to ripple, or if something else comes up, that's fine. Yeah, so maybe imagery or stories come up. It's all fine. But if you find yourself sort of gripping around something or trying to figure it out, maybe just let that go. So it's not, so that it can have more freedom. Just an idea. Allowing yourself to really process your experience without having to even think about it, just being in presence with yourself is allowing that to happen. Any kind of movement or stillness is totally fine. Often in different sort of somatic works, there's a lot of time left for sort of open awareness and stillness. And often for me, like I'm not ready to be still yet. So really let it land in whatever way feels right to you in your body. And by landing, it could be landing like rain on the ground or landing like a drop of water in the river. It's not landing to like plant itself forever. It's just landing for this moment, filling up and letting go. Breathing into your awareness and breathing into your experience. I'm gonna let us come back together and I'm going to stop the live stream. So anybody in TV land, if you're there on the replay or now,